It's really up to the woman to make yourself interesting, to come up with interesting things to talk about. And here is a bunch of topics that will really get your man interested and stay interested. Thanks for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Robert Manni, the author of The Guy's Guide to Love and host of Guy's Guy Radio. Robert, thanks for being here again.
Always a pleasure, Silka. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
What we want to talk about today, I ran across an article that talked about, how men are, gosh, they get bored so easily, and it's really up to the woman to make yourself interesting, to come up with interesting things to talk about. And here is a bunch of topics that will really get your man interested and stay interested. And I want to get your opinion on some of them. Some of them are good, others I started laughing. The obvious, his interests, his work, his hobbies. Yeah, right?
Of course. Well, men like to talk about themselves, and they want to feel some type of acknowledgement from their partner. And I think a lot of women want to talk about what they're doing, their work or whatever, also nowadays, and that's great. And that's how it should be. So, of course, people like to talk about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, those are pretty obvious, and it is. You feel special when somebody asks about you and actually listen. So yeah, that's good advice. It's kind of obvious. On the other hand, well, here she says, what makes you tick? That to speak about yourself, but then again, get right back to him. Do you want to hear a lot about me, Robert?
Of course. I mean, I think if you're in a relationship, you actually want to hear what your partner feels. The last thing you want is a partner who feels repressed, or that you're not interested in what they have to say and you're not interested in them. I think sometimes guys will multitask where they're listening and then they're checking their phone or something like that, and it's not giving their undivided attention. And I've been guilty of that, along with probably 99% of the male population.
Yeah. An obvious one, I suppose, sex. Talk about sex. But I think, well, I guess depending on where you are in your relationship, and a lot of these are supposed to be early on when you first start to get to know each other, because you don't know what to talk about. So that's why these topics are recommended to get to know the other person. Talk about sex.
I think we have to be careful in terms of what we talk about sex. If we're talking about what we like in our partnership and stuff like that, yeah, that's cool. I think we have to be careful though. I know for a fact that men don't want to hear about your past lovers. They don't want to hear about that guy with the big hands or whatever. It's just a turnoff to guys. They can't bear to think about their partner, naked, making love with some other guy. That's like the last thing they want to think about. And so if you want to talk about sex, you have to make it something that they can get excited about. I'm not saying physically, sexually aroused, but I'm talking about that's like, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because they're thinking about, oh, sex. How is this going to make my sex life better? Am I going to get the sex type that I want? Is that what she wants to talk about? So you have to be careful when you open up. That could be a Pandora's box. They don't want to hear about Larry, your ex-boyfriend. Believe me.
No, I agree. And that's actually leads into another recommendation, is to talk about the past. Do you really want to talk about the past when you want to get to know someone? I know it sounds logical, but again, think about what that opens up, I think.
Yeah, I think anytime we start talking about the past and past relationships, people automatically are going to ask themselves, how does it reflect on them? And I think for the over 50 crowd, even more so, everybody's got a past, but we have to be careful in terms of the spoonfuls that we dole out in terms of our past, because yes, people are going to want to know about our past if we're over 50 and we're dating, but we don't want to give them all of our baggage, if you will. So I think we need to be careful, and we want to set a tone that says, I'm positive about the past and I'm positive about being here right now.
Here's something that you can just tell it was written by a woman. Talk about the perfect date. What is your dream date to keep a man interested?
Listen, if you're really, reaching for, if the guy's not much of a talker, or you don't have that much of chemistry in terms of conversation, you're looking for topics. I mean, there's a way of positioning that question, like, what would be a great date? What would be your perfect date? And that can come across okay. You might learn something from your partner about that. It seems like on the surface that it's reaching, like desperate, but it's really not. I don't think it's a bad question. It's just another, it's another way of creating an open-ended question to find out about somebody,
Yeah.
and stimulate conversation. So to me, if somebody asks me that, that's cool. That's all right, and it's going to be revealing too.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's a good way to look at it. That leads into an play 20 questions or would you rather? I mean, that to me, that implies young and
Yeah,
female,
it's like
but
truth or dare or something, right? And
I mean,
spin the
would you
bottle.
really want to open up a conversation where you can ask me anything, we'll tell the truth?
Well, you know what? If you have the right partnership, you should be able to have kind of a barometer as to what I can ask and when,
Yeah, but this
and
is
to make
early.
it an
This
interesting
isn't
conversation.
partnership. This isn't
Early. Oh, this
partnership.
is early
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I think if you want to, like, find out about somebody, I don't think you lay it out as like, here's the game board. Here's, like, we play 20 questions. I ask you, you ask me. Just have a conversation, and you should be mature enough over 50 to be able to navigate a conversation so you can kind of sort out, you can have fun with it, and it can be organic. Like, yet you can still find out some of the things you want to find out about the person. So if you can do it in a way where it's not like, hey, here's 20 questions. I wrote them down. You want to do that? I think that's not cool.
No, I agree. And again, this is advice to women how to keep men interested. And it
Yeah.
and these articles that I picked, they come up high in Google search. So a lot of people read this.
Let
Anyway.
me let me add. Let me throw a couple. You wanna find out to keep a guy interested. I think number one, ask them about themselves, whatever their work is, how they're feeling. If they're interested in sports, they're watching the World Series, whatever. How's the World Series going? You a fan? Why do you like this team? When you grew up, did you play baseball? Whatever. You just open this thing up and you get to know somebody.
Yeah, well, ask about his sporting preferences. That is, she does write this here to ask about sports. My hesitancy there would be unless you know sports or unless you're truly interested, that really can come across as inauthentic and like because I see women that try to talk to men about sports who really know about sports, and that does not keep the man interested. It's like, oh, God, my opinion.
Yeah, because if they start talking about a specific game or whatever, and then they could see that you don't get it,
Mhm.
they're like, okay, thanks for asking about sports, but you really don't want to know. So I can talk about this with my friends. So yeah, again, it's like one of those things, you're opening up a potential Pandora's box. But if you have a legitimate interest, like, why do you like the Padres or the Yankees or whatever? And did you go to games when you were a kid? And you
Yeah,
keep it at that level. And
right.
if they start to go deep, and into the lineup, and like, why this guy's playing second base and batting seventh, and it's too much for you, then you might run into that. Then he's really into baseball.
Yeah. It's funny because like Paul he knows everything about sports. I mean, he would be my lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with sports. And so we don't talk, we don't talk strategy or game of that, but I love sports, but I love it for different reasons. I like the atmosphere. I like Super Bowl parties because of the party, not because of what's going on the TV necessarily. And I think that's important that women maybe understand that if you can support a man or talk about stuff that he's interested in when it comes to sports on a level that you can really engage with and not, unless you know sport. I mean, there are a lot of women that know, gosh, they know everything about football, but I feel like you need to know to talk with it and have it be interesting, and that's the point of this, of course. uh lots of other stuff. Oh, important people in your life, that's a good one.
I guess it's a question, though, that sounds like it's a question from one of these articles, where if you said to somebody, who are the most important people in your life? I mean,
Mhm.
nobody's ever asked me that. I guess it's a viable question, but it's kind of like, well, where does that come? Why? What do you care? I
Yeah,
mean, like,
well,
what?
that's true.
Why? It's like, why? Why am I being asked that? That's like a screening question. That's like a question you got off the internet.
That's
Mhm.
a really good point. That's a really good point. Or who has influenced you the most? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like an interview question.
Which unfortunately, so many of initial dates, the first dates, like, they come across as interviews.
Mhm.
And if you want to turn a guy off, make him feel like he's being interviewed on his first date.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they'll see, if they see through that, if they get a sense of that, and it's not being done organically and smoothly, they really don't like. I've been in that situation, and I was like, it's like applying for the job, and it's like, you know what, you're applying for a job also, my dear. So let's just talk.
Yeah, no, that's true. Here's a question or a topic that I really don't like, and I get disagreement here, but books. Talk about like your favorite books, your favorite characters in the I feel like I'm being put on the spot then. What do I say, a comedy, a rom-com? Do I, a I mean, to me, that's a question that throws me.
Well, it could be, books is tricky because not that many people, unfortunately, of a certain age read books.
Mhm.
Just a lot of adults don't read books, and it's a shame because that's really a great way to learn. And people are into film though, because you can
Mhm.
just sit there and watch it. So I think you can learn about somebody by the types of movies they watch. If it's all superhero movies and the guy's over 50, that should tell you something about him. If I'm not saying he's supposed to love all art films or whatever, but you want to hear. I think having varied interests is a good thing. So it's not all one thing. If it's all like just these violent revenge movies, then you're going to get a sense as to this. That's kind of where his head is at.
Yeah. No, I agree. She says here, what movie do you wish life was more like? I would never, again, yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. It's not a bad question, but that's pretty deep. That's not a first date question.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Right? Because that requires some circumspection, because that's actually, you can go deep on that, and it's not a bad question, but it's not a where do you like to go on vacation type question. It's not. It's too deep.
yeah,
It's
it's
too clinical.
well, let's get into a really not clinical one, and we're coming to the end here. So, well, I'll make this our last
Okay.
point. Uh, Ask him about his crushes. This is supposed to be an icebreaker to, and it'll reveal, what he likes or what kind of women or that kind of stuff. But really, do you really want to know about his crushes?
I think that doesn't work because guys don't think in crushes. They think like, okay, you're asking me what celebrity I want to have sex with.
Yeah.
And, that's basically how they're going to take that question. And it's probably going to somebody who's like hot and overtly sexual. Maybe not. I don't know. But, you basically, they're going to think sex,
Mhm.
and they're not going to think crush. Like, isn't she adorable? They're going to think, what would I like to see her like this or whatever. It's, a guy's going to go down to that level most, I think.
Yeah,
At
I
least I will.
Yeah, well, no, and yes, I agree. I think that invites answers that will put a woman off. I mean, a woman never wants to hear about other women or what,
Right,
I don't care
right.
what you say. A
That's
woman
right.
never really wants to hear about the past, never wants to hear about old girlfriend. She just wants to hear she's the most important person in your life. So I think those kind of topics, especially when you get to know someone, it is going
Yeah,
to. Uh, well,
I
again,
agree.
the list goes on, and I'll link to the article. You can read it, see what you think. Take it with a grain of salt. Any advice from you, Robert, in
I
closing?
just think, for a woman, you want to keep a guy interested. Part of it is he worth it? You shouldn't have to try to keep him interested. Organically, you should have chemistry, and it should just flow from there. And if it has to come down to developing a set of 20 questions or this or that, it's like over trying, and maybe the chemistry isn't there, and you can't force chemistry. You can go through a process. I don't know if it's always going to work though. So I would just caution when you get too much with the lists and stuff about things to ask to make him stay interested in you. If he's having fun,
Mhm.
if you can giving him an opportunity to talk about himself and share his feelings with you organically, and if he feels like you're a good sex partner, you're on the way to a potentially really good relationship.
Great advice. Absolutely. Robert, thank you. I will link to your book. That's what I'll say. My favorite book, Guys Guide to Love. And your radio
Thank you.
show and YouTube TV, Guys Guide TV. Robert, thank you. I look forward to seeing you again soon on Second Act TV.
My pleasure. Thank you, Silka. Thank you, everybody.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.